I get a lot of questions kind of grouped into categories for some of the hydraulic stuff that we have shown on this channel. And I think it's good just to take a few steps back here and answer some of those questions today. We're going to be looking at this 6-point connector on the front of the tractor, not just for this tractor, for a lot of tractors. We're going to be looking at how much more flexible it is than maybe what I've illustrated in the past. We're also going to take a look at the rear hydraulic options and look at some more flexibility there, as well as answer some specific questions. Let's get started. Now, for a good while now, DiscountHydraulicHose.com has offered this 6-port faster quick connector that allows your loader to be connected and disconnected, the hydraulics of it, in one simple motion, right? We've had that on the market now for quite some time. One challenge we've had is supply, right? So it's been in and out of stock. It's in stock at present. This is offered as a kit. We call it the V3 kit, which is the complete kit. I'm not even going to go to why it's the version 3, but anyway, complete kit with bracket and all the hoses necessary. And that's kind of what we've offered and discussed on this channel several times. But I get a lot of questions about adapting this kit for other tractors. People want to be able to have the 6-port connector on different tractors. They don't want to have it on a Deere 1 series. They have other subcompact tractors they want to put it on, just other situations entirely. To that end, Discount Hydraulic Hose is now offering the 6-port connector in a lot more flexible way. You can buy just the connector now. In fact, this is just the top half, right? Let's see, yeah, like that. That's just the top half of it. You can buy just the top half, just the bottom half. You can buy it with the hoses kit still, or you can buy it without hoses. If you do buy just this is O-ring Boss fittings right here on the top and the bottom, if you want to supply your own hoses. This is useful for subcompact tractors. These are 1/4 inch lines here. You could probably get by even on a 2 series Deere. LX Kubota is probably about the biggest you'd want to go. Anything in the, in the 25 horsepower line, you'll be fine, and some of the 32 horse machines you would be fine as well. You can use this one. It's 6 ports in line. Now, Deere offers the 4-port version. If you want an upper half for a second attachment or something, you can buy this 6-port upper half, and it will connect to your 4-port lower half. You might do that if you're thinking of upgrading later to a 6-port connector, and that way you could add your third function in here. Now, another question I get frequently is, what if I have a diverter instead of a true third function? A diverter a lot of times just needs 4 hoses here, and then you have a separate electrical connector, and the diverter is on the loader. At least that's the way the Artilian and I believe the WR Long diverters work. For that situation, you can use the 4-port connector here and just connect your electric wire separately. But another approach is to use the 6-port single-point connector and then replace one of these with an electrical connector, right? So one of these, Faster makes an electrical connector that you can put right in here, and so that connection is made all at the same time, and you won't have to connect that separately. This single-point connector, this is a 4-port version, because the 6-port version is on my tractor, but this is for larger tractors. This will handle anything up to probably the 4R, maybe even the 5E. Yeah, I think it could handle the 5E. It's 1/2 inch ports here, and so you won't have any issue with that. Now, you can't get the 4-port one from Discount Hydraulic Hose, I don't believe, but you can get the 6-port version. And again, without any kit. You can still get the kit for the 2038R, 2032R, but if you want just the 6-port connector, again, each half is purchased separately. You can do that, and it's going to be the most cost-effective that I know of you can get it. No, they're not cheap. None of them are cheap, but I just want you to understand that you don't have to buy the complete kits anymore. You can buy just the single-point connectors. build your own bracket, or maybe you can mount it someplace you've already found on your tractor or on your loader. That's a good way to handle it. So just to be perfectly clear, if you have another brand tractor or a tractor that we haven't listed support for, buy just this piece and then custom fit the hoses for your tractor. It doesn't matter if it's a Massey Ferguson, it doesn't matter if it's a Yanmar or Kubota, it doesn't matter what brand. You can make this work on your tractor. You may have to do some custom bracket to hold everything up here, or you may find a spot on the tractor where you can bolt it. There are holes right here that you can mount this to. A local machine shop can help you with the bracket too. It's really not that big of a deal to bend a little bit of steel and make a bracket for something like this. It's custom for your machine. But then you can get the hoses you can get that will match your loader, match your tractor. Just a little bit of an effort that your dealer can help you with, a local hydraulic shop. It's actually kind of a fun DIY project. Now, if you're wondering why in the world would you ever use one of these, it is just this quick single point disconnection. I see a lot of people with a subcompact tractor that still mow their lawn with their loader attached. They just take the bucket off instead of the whole loader frame. Let me encourage you to go ahead and take that loader off. It really makes a difference. It makes your tractor feel much more nimble. It actually doesn't rut up the yard as much because it doesn't have as much weight on the front tires. It steers easier. You can get around in and under stuff a lot better. And with this connector, it's trivial, right? You don't even have to leave the tractor seat to totally take your loader off. It's actually easier than the bucket because you have to get out of the seat to take your bucket off, right? But you can do this all from your tractor seat on either a Deere or a Kubota with this unit right here. Use code TTWT, discounthydraulichose.com. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Now, when it comes to rear hydraulics and front third function, I still think this is the most cost competitive, the most flexible possible solution that you can come up with for your tractor. This is the kit from Summit Hydraulics, and I call it the kit. There are multiple variations to this kit, and you can configure them however you want. So I think maybe I have erred in not communicating how flexible this can be. And so I'm going to try to help you with some of that right here. You can get them in 2 through 4 valve widths. I'll show you another one in a minute that we're actually using all 4 of them. So there is a reason for all 4, but one of the good reasons to go with 2 is to save space. You can see this is a pretty tall stack. This is on subcompact tractor. There is a kit specifically for several brands of tractors, the popular brands, Kubotas, Deeres, and I think a couple of other brands. They have some specific kits to help, but I don't think that's a big deal, quite frankly. This is pretty simple to install and configure, and all you have to do is figure out a way to get this big block attached to your tractor or to your implement. Yeah, we have that flexibility. So don't lock yourself in and say, hey, there's no kit for my tractor, so this is not going to work. Here's an example of I would call it a non-standard mounting. We're on the Otis Innovations quick hitch bracket with Old Salty here, right? This bracket's removable, so if it turns out to be in the way when when I'm not using it, I can just take the top off of this bracket and unhook 2 hoses, and all of it comes off in one piece. So I have these 2 little angle pieces right here, and we've found a way to make 3 of the 4 screws, fit in there and hold it on. Haven't had any trouble in, I don't know, 2 years, a year and a half, however long it's been here. Haven't had any trouble of it breaking loose or coming off. It's been excellent. Now, let's say you've got only one attachment that needs this, right? And you can't figure out a way to mount it on your tractor. You can also put it on your attachment and route only 2 hoses to your tractor for the Power Beyond, right? And then the rest of it can be on the attachment, allowing you to, say control 3 or 4 controls. For example, I saw a boom flail mower. I actually had one on the property here that had 4 valves on it, right? And in that case, they provided the hydraulic valves, but I thought there was really no need for that. I could have used my Summit kit, put it on the attachment itself. and ran that particular attachment without any issues. So keep that in mind if you're having struggle figuring out how to mount this. Now, specifically on Old Salty here, the 3X20 Deere tractors and 4X20s, it's very difficult to find a place to mount them. If you have a 3R tractor, I know a guy who has made a bracket for it. I do not believe it's offered through Summit Hydraulics, the bracket, but I might be able to hook you up if you need one for a 3R tractor. Unfortunately, that doesn't work on Old Salty, so I don't have any way to mount it. Very difficult to mount on these cab tractors because you have the window that wants to open, right? So you can't really just put it back here somewhere without sacrificing your opening rear window. So let's take a look at one other install of these kits. Okay, on this tractor you can see that I have mounted it at a little bit of an angle. I mounted it to the ROPS just like I typically would, but in this case I mounted it to an angled portion of the ROPS, and that kept it away from the back of the seat a little bit. Let me give you a little closer view of the type of brackets you have. This is for a 2-port version, a 2-valve version, I guess you would say. Not 2 ports, but 2 valves. And again, this is made to connect to the ROPS. And this is where the unit would attach. So you can put it to the ROPS. You could attach this to any piece of metal, horizontally, vertically, however you want to mount it. You could bend this bracket if you wanted to. You could do whatever you want. Now, Summit offers several different brackets for different purposes. If you buy one of these kits, you may not get exactly the bracket that you think you need, and you might have to talk to them. I'm not sure if they're listed on their website, but they do have several different brackets that are just used for different purposes. Now, when it comes to the actual electric valves, the main reason that I wanted electric on-off valves to control these wasn't a preference for electric, it was to make it easier for locating the switches. And if you used mechanical valves, you would have to run hydraulic hoses, in this case 8 of them, to the levers, right? So that you could run that hydraulically. With the electric, we can run just small electric cable. It's a lot easier to run, and then we can put those switches wherever we want them. This is the bracket that comes with the, I think, essentially all of the kits for connecting these switches. You'd put the switch box right up here on top. You mount this to the ROPS, or again, you could twist it, mount it flatways. It will extend, right? And you just put the switches right up here. Let's look at another option for the switches. If you have a more recent 1025R, say a 23 model or later, I believe, you have these knockouts here. And in my case, I just put all 4 of the switches in these knockouts. It makes it look very factory installed, very professional. It's just a nice way to handle that. I believe all of the Deere machines now offer these knockouts in their latest versions. If you don't have those, again, just use that bracket and attach them to the ROPS here. I briefly mentioned that the Summit kit can be used for a front third function as well. I shouldn't gloss over that. That's actually one of the primary usages. This particular tractor had a factory third function, so I don't have it on this tractor. My other 1025R that's at Christy's dad's house does indeed use the Summit third function. The way that works is we take the bottom valve there, right here, and we take hoses and route those under the tractor all the way up here to the mid connection. And we have those 2 hoses up there that come out the side of the tractor using the very same style bracket that Deere used in their factory third function. That's where we got the idea. And then we replace this handle from Deere with a Summit handle that has buttons on it. It actually has 2 sets of buttons, and you can move 2 of your switches up to this handle, right? So not just the front third function, but if you want one of your rears up here, you can do it at the same time. And so that gives you very nice access to 2 of your 4 functions. If you only have 2 valves, you get both of them right here. You don't have to worry about the separate switches. But this allows you to have the most cost-effective third function that exists. And when I say the most cost-effective, you can buy a standalone third function that's cheaper, even from Summit. But what you can't buy is rear and front at the same time that's less expensive than this combination. So if you're looking to make the single add-on to your tractor to give front and rear hydraulics, there's really no other place to look unless you're willing to spend a good bit more money than this Summit kit with the front third function option. You can buy a lot of these pieces separately. You can buy the joystick piece separately. You can buy the switches separately, little switch boxes and all from Summit. So you can build your own kit for your own tractor for your custom needs. Again, it's not specific to the Deere tractors or even modern tractors, right? So you've got plenty of options. Now I want to talk a little about the power, the flexibility that we've got with this particular unit. I've talked about the switches that come with the Summit kit, but these yellow cables are a part of my laser box blade so that I can hydraulically control and keep a level or a grade with the laser. And in this case, you can see one of these yellow cables right here has the same connector, and I can plug it right into my Summit kit, right? So this allows me to use any of these valves and make them laser controlled. In theory, it could be GPS controlled too, I suppose. All flexible, all built in right here. Of course, the laser system is extra price, but at least I don't have to buy the hydraulics for the laser system. A couple things I want to point out here. These are our laser control boxes for the tilt and the raise and lower on the laser box blade that we've got. By the way, I intend to use this system, maybe not this system, I'm going to use an upgraded system for our next episode. Canamec.com, the owner is coming here. We're going to try to revamp this system a little bit, make it a little bit easier for me to deal with. Instead of two separate systems, hopefully I'll have one that controls both the slope and the raise and lower. But what I want to show you today is, first I'm using that bracket from Summit to hold these, right? So this is that same bracket I just showed you, and it turns out to be a very nice way to hold these laser receivers or anything else you got. Let's say you got a display that you want to put up here, maybe you've got a camera system. This bracket is great, it's extendable this way. It can mount anywhere on the RUPS. Of course, when people say anywhere on the RUPS, it's pretty easy to get your RUPS full. That's a difficult challenge. But you saw the other end of these that's connected to the Summit kit. Well, the only other thing that I need is power, okay? And in this tractor, I'm using the little 12 volt, we would call them cigarette lighters in my day, but the little 12 volt outlet here. And that works, well, pretty well. It's not perfect because this 12 volt outlet is powered all the time. It's not keyed. So I have to remember to unplug this or my battery runs down on the tractor. Or I suppose I could turn these off by the switches, but I forget in either case and I end up with my battery run down. So that's the only negative about this. For power to your Summit kit, I would recommend using a more permanent mounting where you can find a switched power supply. My laser system is on and off the tractor because I just don't want to leave it on here all the time. And so for that reason, I continue to use the 12 volt outlet. Coming up is the biggest question that I have gotten so far on the Summit kit. The most frequent question I get about the Summit kit is how to connect it when the backhoe is present. Very good question, and it must not be obvious because I get it a lot of times. So in order to discuss that, I want to back up here a little bit and talk about how the hydraulics of the Summit are connected to the tractor. The Summit kit uses Power Beyond, so there's got to be a continuous hydraulic flow from the tractor to the hydraulic unit itself. Most of these tractors have what's called an open center hydraulic system, and I don't really care why it's called open center. I don't want to get into a lot of detail on that, but I have talked about the basic aspect of an open center system. There's a big hydraulic loop, so all of the oil flows at all times through the main part of the hydraulic system. The pump just continually pumps oil, and if some valve or some system needs that oil, it diverts the oil from that loop, right, to use it, and then sends the, I'm going to call it waste oil, or the oil that's, coming out of the cylinder or out of the motor or whatever, back to the tank. So what the Summit kit needs is to be a part of that loop. Okay, so You've got the loop here, and then what we do is a power beyond allows you to get into that loop. So you kind of disconnect that loop, you put your Summit kit in, and you reconnect it in. So you're kind of patching yourself into the overall loop, right? And that's done with these two hoses here. And what we have is, this one's coming from the tractor. This is the Power Beyond kit that comes from Deere in this case. If you have a backhoe with your tractor, you will have a Power Beyond kit. That just because the backhoe needs to have that loop extended to it as well, right? It all uses the same thing. So what we do here is we just use these 1/2-inch ag connectors here, ISO ag connectors, and it doesn't really matter. If your tractor uses a different connector, no worries. Just get the appropriate quick coupler from your dealer or from somewhere online that supports your tractor. Probably Summit has it. Discount Hydraulic Hose likely has it. So you can get them pretty much anywhere. But what we have, I'm not going to connect the other one because it's way down here, but what we have with the Summit kit is one male and one female. What we have with the Power Beyond is one male and one female. What you have on your backhoe is one male, one female. So you can connect these all in a line so that as that loop I've talked about, you patch in the Summit kit and go back. Well, so you patch in the Summit kit, and instead of going immediately back, go to the input of your backhoe and then go back to connect the loop, right? So you've just essentially made your loop bigger. Not two loops, there doesn't have to be a T, there doesn't have to be anything fancy. You're just keeping that loop intact. So if you're an electrician or think like that, it's wiring it in series. Okay, so you're putting the Summit kit and then the backhoe, or if you prefer the backhoe to be first, you can do that. You can come out of the Power Beyond of the tractor to your backhoe, then to your Summit kit, then return to tank on the tractor, right? So you just keep that loop intact. That is the key point. And since both the Summit kit and the backhoe are plumbed to fit to your Power Beyond, one male and one female, you've already got all the couplers you need. Just connect them together in series. Typically, it probably doesn't matter which one you put first, whether you put the Summit kit first or the backhoe first, because oftentimes you're not going to be using them both at the same time. But if you are in a situation where you're using both of them at the same time, whichever one you put first in the loop, whichever one you put on the pressure side of the Power Beyond, that's first in the loop, is going to get priority, right? So if you try to do two functions at the same time, whichever one you have first is going to get the priority on that oil, right? Because if it diverts the oil, then the further down the line won't get the oil or won't get as much oil. So that's how you want to think about it. I typically put the Summit kit first. I don't know why, but that's what I do. Without any other preference, I would make it whichever works best with the hoses that you've got and the lengths and just how they run. So that's the answer to the question. If that doesn't quite get through to you, again, leave a comment below and I'll answer it, or somebody else will. I think this will make sense once you do it a time or two and get the logic fully ingrained in your mind. But yeah, it's a simple solution, but it may not be obvious to a first timer. Now this is the rear view of my Yanmar YT359. Notice it's already got 3 valves from the dealer or from the factory. These are OEM valves. And so I really don't have a need for the Summit kit on this tractor. And if you're getting ready to purchase a tractor, that's something to consider, right? I mean, finding one that'll offer up to 3 rear valves, that's very special and something that you might want to consider. What I want to use this tractor for is to illustrate how you could create your own Power Beyond kit. This is an open center tractor, so it has the big hydraulic loop. And with just a brief look, I can see that there are 2 hoses right here connecting all 3 of these valves. These 2 hoses, again, are the input and the output of that big loop. So if I wanted to put a Power Beyond on this tractor, I don't have to dig way down into the tractor. I could simply disconnect these hoses and again, insert myself into that loop. So we could put a Summit kit with just these 2 hoses here. I realize you can't see them very good. It doesn't even matter, right? Because the illustration, the point is the same. The point is that you just have to break into your hydraulic loop anywhere. And if you can get into that loop anywhere on your tractor, then you can create a Power Beyond. It's not some mythical, magical component. If your manufacturer offers a Power Beyond kit, I would recommend it because it'll be the cleanest way to do it, right? But if not, for instance, when I got my Kubota tractor from Messick's, I asked them for a Power Beyond kit, and they just did something at the dealer. They just connected into the loop somewhere, and I thought, oh, that's not a factory Power Beyond kit. That's just 2 hoses. That's all you really need. There was no reason to go with anything more than just 2 hoses to extend that loop. Okay? If you do that, and if you don't have a Summit installed, make sure that you have those two hoses connected so that you can keep that loop intact. I find these hydraulic upgrades, the single point connector from discounthydraulichose.com and the Summit front and rear kit to be some of the best, perhaps the best options to upgrade your tractor. The faster kit from Discount Hydraulic Hose makes it trivial to take your loader off and reattach it. It's just wonderful for that. It is some money, but it is highly worth it. Make sure you use code TTWT there. The rear Summit kit is the least expensive hydraulic kit of that style that you can buy, by far. I don't know of anybody else that's even close. I have actually talked to some folks that are sort of competitors, and they just get mad when Summit is mentioned because Summit is so much cheaper than everybody else. Summit has just found a way to do this cost effectively. They've focused on these exact kits and they've got it just done right. Okay, so it's a very good, very cost effective solution. It's not perfect. If you want perfect, you can pay double or triple, but it is a good compromise. Use code TTWT at summit-hydraulics.com as well. If you have any more hydraulics questions, I'd be happy to give it a shot. I really want to help you to more effectively utilize your tractor. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.
What we have received is not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, so that we may understand what God has freely given us. This is what we speak, not in words taught us by human wisdom, but in words taught by the Spirit, explaining spiritual realities with Spirit-taught words. The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness, and cannot understand them because they are discerned only through the Spirit.